Supporting cognitive development in infants and toddlers. This session examines how very young children learn, think, remember, explore, and solve problems. Cognitive development starts at birth and grows through everyday experiences and relationships. As early childhood educators, you play a major role in shaping those experiences. The learning objectives for this session include describing major cognitive developmental milestones in infants and toddlers from birth to age 3, identifying responsive teaching strategies and embedding interventions that support cognitive development during everyday routines in the classroom and at home, recognizing possible signs of developmental delay related to cognitive development and explaining appropriate next steps for observation, documentation, and referral. Explaining the role of the developmental interventionist, including the use of family-centered coaching and collaboration to support children receiving early intervention services. Cognitive development is about how children learn, think, and make sense of what is happening around them. It includes skills like attention, memory, imitation, problem solving, curiosity, and understanding cause and effect. In infancy and toddlerhood, these skills develop through direct, hands-on experiences. Infants and toddlers learn by watching, touching, moving, listening, repeating actions, and interacting with other people. At this age, learning is tied closely to the body and to the senses. Cognitive development is not just about learning future academics. It's really about how children build understanding through daily experiences. For example, when an infant shakes a rattle to hear the sound, that child is learning through experimentation. When a toddler remembers where a favorite book is kept, that child is using memory in a practical way. Understanding cognitive development helps teachers notice learning that is already happening and respond in more intentional ways. The first 3 years of life are one of the most important periods for brain development. During this time, the brain is building connections rapidly based on what children experience every day. These early experiences influence how children learn, communicate, regulate, and relate to others later on in life. Repeated positive experiences help strengthen pathways that support development. Warm, responsive relationships are especially important because they help children feel safe enough to explore. Exploration is one of the main ways infants and toddlers build their cognitive skills. Everyday moments like being talked to, soothed, sung to, and responded to all matter. Small interactions may seem simple, but they have a big impact when they happen consistently. This is why high-quality infant and toddler care is so important. Teachers are not just supervising children during this stage of development. They are helping build the foundation for later learning. There are several major areas of cognitive development that we see in infants and toddlers. One is attention, or the ability to focus on people, sounds, objects, or experiences. Another is memory, which helps children recognize familiar people, routines, and materials. Cause and effect develops as children learn that what they do can change something in their environment. Problem solving appears when children try different ways to get something they want, need, or to continue an activity. Object permanence is the understanding that something still exists even when it is out of sight. Imitation is also important because children learn a great deal by watching and copying others. Later, toddlers begin to show symbolic thought through pretend play. These areas develop together rather than in isolation. When early childhood educators understand these domains, it becomes easier to notice growth and support it intentionally. From birth to 6 months, infants learn mainly through sensory experiences and close relationships. They often look carefully at faces and track moving objects with their eyes. They may turn toward familiar voices or calm when they hear a known sound. At this age, infants are beginning to notice patterns in their world. They may start to anticipate routines like feeding, being picked up, or hearing a favorite song. Their learning is grounded in being with responsive adults rather than participating in formal learning activities. Teachers can support this stage by offering face-to-face interaction, simple sensory experiences, and predictable care routines. Talking, singing, smiling, and responding to infant cues are especially valuable. Even very young infants are already learning from repeated experiences. These early interactions build the foundation for attention, memory, and later on problem solving. Between 6 and 12 months, infants become much more active in how they learn. They explore objects by shaking, mouthing, dropping, banging, and passing them from one hand to the other. These actions may look simple, but they are actually important investigations. Infants at this age begin to notice that their actions create results. That is one of the earliest forms of cause and effect learning. They may also start looking for a toy that has been partially hidden. As their mobility increases, curiosity usually increases too. Teachers can support this developmental stage by offering safe materials with different textures, sounds, and uses. Simple games like peekaboo and hide and find are very useful at this point. Repetition matters because it allows infants to test their ideas again and again. Between 12 and 18 months, toddlers begin showing stronger memory and early reasoning. They may search for hidden objects and remember where familiar items belong. Trial and error learning becomes easier to see during this stage. A toddler might try several ways to open a container, reach a toy, or stack objects. Early pretend play may also appear, such as pretending to drink from a cup or talk on a phone. These behaviors show that toddlers are beginning to connect objects with real-life experiences. Teachers can support this growth by modeling simple actions and giving children time to imitate them. Consistent routines also help toddlers learn what to expect next. Hands-on exploration is still the main way learning happens. This stage reflects growing independence and how toddlers interact with their world. From 18 to 24 months, toddlers begin using materials more purposefully. They may complete simple puzzles, match familiar objects, or sort basic items. Their memory becomes more noticeable as they remember where things belong and what happens next in their daily routines. Their pretend play is now becoming more organized. A toddler might feed a doll, start pretend food, or act out a familiar routine. Teachers can support this cognitive growth by offering materials that encourage matching, sorting, pretending, and simple problem solving. Repeated books, songs, and routines continue to strengthen memory and understanding. Adults can extend thinking by asking children to find something, choose between items, or compare objects. Gentle challenges are helpful when they build on what the child already knows. This is a developmental stage where routine and play work together to support growth. From 24 to 36 months, Toddlers show more flexible and independent thinking. They can solve simple problems with less adult support, especially during play. Sorting and classifying begin to grow as children group objects by color, size, or type. Now pretend play becomes more detailed and may include short sequences or roles. Memory also becomes stronger, and toddler may begin recalling past experiences or anticipating things more clearly. Toddlers can often follow simple directions and begin understanding early concepts such as big and little or in and out. Teachers can support this stage through dramatic play, sensory play, books, music, and open-ended materials. Children still need repetition, but they are increasingly able to use what they know in new ways. This developmental stage lays important groundwork for preschool concept development. It is helpful for adults to encourage both exploration and language as children play and problem solve. Developmental milestones are useful, but they should be treated as guides rather than strict rules. Children usually follow a general sequence of development, but the pace can vary widely. Some children show certain skills earlier, while others need more time. These differences can be influenced by temperament, the opportunity for practice, health, and culture. Teachers should avoid making unnecessary comparisons between children. Instead, it is more helpful to look for patterns over time. Cognitive development is closely connected to language, motor, sensory, and social emotional development. Remember, a toddler may understand more than they can physically or verbally show. Careful observation helps adults recognize the difference between natural variation and a possible developmental delay concern. Using a respectful and culturally responsive lens leads to better interpretation of development. Relationships create the emotional foundation for learning. Infants and toddlers are more likely to explore when they feel safe with the adults around them. Secure relationships help children try new things and recover more easily from frustration. Responsive caregiving also supports attention because children are more engaged when interactions feel warm and meaningful. One important idea here is the serve and return interaction. When a child looks, gestures, or vocalizes, and an adult responds, that back and forth exchange supports cognitive development. These moments help children connect actions, sounds, and meaning. They also build trust, which encourages more exploration. Cognitive development grows best in settings where children feel emotionally safe and secure. In that way, relationships are not separate from learning. They are what make learning possible. Play is the main way infants and toddlers build cognitive skills. Through play, infants and toddlers explore materials, repeat actions, and test their ideas. Sensory play helps them notice texture, movement, sound, and change. Block play supports balance, spatial awareness, and early reasoning. Dramatic play supports memory, imitation, and symbolic thought. Play also allows children to practice cause and effect in meaningful ways. Teachers do not need to over-direct play for learning to happen. Instead, teachers can provide interesting materials and observe what children do with them. Joining in thoughtfully can help extend thinking without interfering or taking over the activity. When children have time and support to explore, play becomes the most powerful context for early learning. Responsive teaching is about the way adults support children during real learning moments. One important strategy is following the child's lead instead of changing an activity too quickly or based on adult convenience. Another is using narration to connect language to the child's actions and interests. Modeling can show children how materials might be used or how to approach a new task. Waiting is also important because young children need time to think, process, and respond. Teachers can scaffold learning by offering just enough help to keep the child engaged. The goal is to support rather than to interfere or take over. Responsive teaching requires observation, flexibility, and patience. It also helps teachers match support to the child's current developmental level. These adult teaching strategies make ordinary routines and play much more intentional. Attention is important because children have to notice and stay with an experience in order to learn from it. Infants and toddlers are still developing this skill, so adults need realistic expectations. One way to support attention is to reduce unnecessary distractions. Another is to choose materials that are interesting but not overwhelming. Face-to-face interaction is especially powerful because adults are meaningful and engaging to young children. Teachers can also build on what each child naturally enjoys. Repeated books, songs, and materials often support longer engagement because they are familiar and the child is working on masteries of the skills. Offering a few choices is usually better than presenting too many options at once. Adults can reinforce attention by noticing a toddler's effort and curiosity. Over time, all of these supports help toddlers participate more fully in learning experiences. Memory develops through repetition, familiarity, and meaningful experiences. One early sign of memory growth is object permanence. This means the child understands that something still exists even when it cannot be seen. Teachers can support this through peekaboo, hiding games, and simple searching activities. Predictable routines also build memory because children begin to know what comes next. Toddlers can strengthen memory by finding objects, following familiar steps, and returning materials to the known places. Adults can support this process by talking about what happened before or what is going to happen next. These experiences feel natural, but they are doing important cognitive work. Over time, memory supports greater participation and eventual independence. Cause and effect develops when children realize that what they do can make something happen. Infants may first learn this by kicking, shaking, or dropping something and noticing the results. Teachers can support this skill by offering materials that respond clearly to action. Toys that pop up, roll, make sounds, or move are good examples. Water play, ramps, and simple containers also support this type of learning. Once again, repetition is important because children need multiple chances to confirm what they are noticing and mastering. Adults can make the learning more explicit by describing what is happening. Simple comments like, "Oh, you pushed it," or "It fell down," help connect the action and outcome. This skill later supports more advanced problem solving and planning. Cause and effect helps children become more intentional in how they explore their world. Problem solving develops when children face small challenges and try to work through them. This might include reaching a toy, opening a box, or figuring out how materials fit together. Teachers can support this by providing manageable challenges and then pausing before helping. That pause gives the toddler time to think and try. Open-ended materials are especially useful because they can be used in so many different ways. Adults can scaffold learning by giving a hint, modeling a step, or slightly adjusting the environment. The goal is to keep the child engaged without removing the challenge entirely. Encouragement should focus on effort and persistence rather than only success. Problem solving does not need to be limited to planned activities. It can happen naturally across routines and play all throughout the day. A cognitively rich environment should invite exploration without overwhelming children. Materials need to be safe, accessible, and appropriate for different developmental levels. Repetition matters because children learn by revisiting experiences again and again. Small variations can then be added to extend interest and encourage new thinking. The environment should offer chances for movement, sensory exploration, problem solving, and quiet interactions. Predictable routines help children know what to expect and support developing memory over the day. Thoughtful arrangement of materials also helps toddlers use them with purpose. Responsive adults are part of the environment because they shape how children experience it. Teachers bring the setting to life through language, observation, and intentional interaction. A strong infant and toddler classroom supports both security and curiosity. Arrival routines can support memory, sequencing, and independence. When the routine is consistent, infants and toddlers begin learning what happens first and what happens next. Teachers can use visual or verbal cues to guide children through those steps. Toddlers may practice finding their cubby, placing belongings in the right spot, or choosing a first activity. These simple tasks support recall and early problem solving. Infants also benefit from familiar greetings and repeated language during arrival. A short greeting song or repeated phrase can help signal the beginning of the day. If an infant or toddler needs more support, adults can break the routine into smaller parts. Arrival is also a great time to offer simple choices. These first moments of the day help infants and toddlers settle in and begin thinking and playing. Meals and snacks are strong settings for concept development and problem solving. Infants and toddlers can learn ideas like more, empty, full, all gone, big, and little through real experiences. Teachers can also support sorting and comparison by talking about foods, utensils, and containers. Mealtime routines strengthen memory because children begin to anticipate the sequence of what happens next. Practical problem solving happens when children scoop, pour, open, make requests, and clean up. Cause and effect is also explored as children can stir, pour, and use child-sized utensils. Teachers can narrate what children are doing without interrupting the natural flow of their routine. Toddlers may also follow simple sequences such as wash hands, sit down, eat, and clean up. These routines connect thinking with meaningful participation. Mealtime is a strong reminder that caregiving routines are also learning opportunities. Diapering and care routines provide valuable one-to-one teaching moments. Because these routines happen often, they help children build anticipation and understand sequence. Teachers can use the consistent language to help children learn the steps. Naming objects, actions, and body parts strengthens understanding in a very natural way. Infants benefit from hearing language matched to what they are experiencing in the moment. Toddlers can take part by helping with simple steps, such as handing over an item or following a familiar direction. These small actions support memory, attention, and participation. The close interaction during care routines also supports connection and regulation. When teachers slow down enough to make routines meaningful, children gain more from it. This is a great example of how caregiving and teaching happen together. Play centers allow teachers to support different kinds of cognitive learning through materials. Sensory play supports noticing, experimenting, and cause and effect. Container and filling activities build concepts like in, out, full, and empty. Block play supports spatial thinking, balance, and trial and error. Puzzles strengthen matching and visual discrimination. Sorting materials help toddlers notice how objects are alike or different. Pretend play supports memory, sequencing, and symbolic thought. Teachers can extend learning by adding a question, a new material, or a small change. All of these supports should connect to what the child is already doing. Well-designed play areas make cognitive learning visible across the day. Outdoor play gives children cognitive experiences that are different from what they often get indoors. Children can explore movement, space, force, and change in a larger environment. Infants may notice light, sound, textures, and changes in weather or movement. Toddlers can experiment with rolling, climbing, carrying, and moving objects across different surfaces. Outdoor play is especially useful for spatial concepts such as under, over, around, and through. It also supports problem solving as children figure out how to navigate equipment or use outdoor play materials. Nature encourages curiosity and observation. Teachers can support this type of learning by helping children notice the birds, shadows, leaves, wind, or outdoor sounds. Outdoor learning should involve active exploration, not just supervision. When used intentionally, the outdoor environment becomes a powerful setting for thinking and discovery. Transitions help children practice sequencing and the understanding of routines. Predictable cues such as songs, gestures, pictures, or repeated phrases help children know what is about to happen. This reduces confusion and supports their growing memory. Teachers can also use first-then language to reinforce order. For example, first we clean up, then we have snack. Small participation tasks during transitions build attention and simple problem solving. For example, a toddler might put away one item or find a place to sit. Calm transitions help children stay regulated and ready for the next part of the day. Infants and toddlers with developmental delays may need added support, such as extra wait time or visual reminders. Keeping transitions simple and consistent makes them easier to learn. Intentional transitions support both thinking and behavior. Families can support cognitive development through the routines they already do each day. Everyday experiences such as meals, bath time, dressing, and play provide natural opportunities for children to build skills like choice making, problem solving, cause and effect, sequencing, body awareness, and sensory exploration. Books, songs, and simple household materials can also be used in meaningful ways to encourage thinking and learning. The goal is not to give families the extra work, but to help them recognize the learning opportunities that are already built into daily life. Teachers can support this by sharing practical, manageable ideas that fit naturally within the family's routines, culture, and priorities. Strong family partnership is essential to this process. Families know their child's interests, strengths, routines, and challenges in different ways than teachers. Teachers build trust with families by beginning with an infant or toddler's strengths, listening carefully to family priorities, and offering clear, respectful suggestions that are realistic for home life. When families feel valued and supported, they are more likely to use strategies consistently. Ongoing communication between home and school creates more consistent support for the children across settings. Partnering with families is not an extra part of appropriate teaching practice. It is a central part of supporting infant and toddler development. Teachers should be aware of patterns that may suggest a developmental concern. Possible signs of cognitive developmental delay could include limited exploration, very short attention to familiar activities, or difficulty learning from repeated experiences. Delays in object permanence, imitation, pretend play, or simple problem solving may also be noticed. Some children may seem unusually passive or show little curiosity about people or materials. Difficulty remembering familiar routines can also raise questions regarding developmental delay. Teachers should pay close attention if a child loses skills that have been previously observed. It is important to look at these concerns in relation to the overall whole child, including their language, motor, sensory, and social emotional development. Careful observation can help teachers know when additional support may be needed. When developmental concerns arise, teachers should begin by observing carefully and documenting what they see. Notes should be objective, specific, and focused on patterns rather than any subjective assumptions. It helps to record when something happened, what was going on, and how often it occurs. Teachers should then follow program procedures and share concerns with supervisors or support staff. The educator's role is not to diagnose, but to communicate observations clearly and professionally. Conversations with families should begin with strengths and be handled with care. It's important for teachers to ask whether the family has also noticed any of these patterns at home. If appropriate, the team can help guide the family towards screening or early intervention services. Acting early matters because support is often more effective when concerns are addressed promptly. Teachers are an important part of the early identification process. A developmental interventionist works with infants and toddlers who have developmental delays or disabilities. The goal is to support the child's participation in everyday routines and activities. The developmental interventionist helps identify meaningful goals based on the child's strengths, needs, and the family's priorities. Developmental interventionists often work in homes, child care settings, and any other natural environments that the child frequents. They look at how the child functions during ordinary routines rather than in isolated, on-demand tasks. They also help families and teachers understand how to support the child more effectively. Collaboration with other professionals is often part of their role as well. They may work with occupational therapists, speech and language pathologists, and pediatric physical therapists as part of an early intervention team. Their work is practical, family-centered, and always routine-based. Understanding this role helps teachers see how intervention connects to classroom life. Teachers and developmental interventionists have an important shared role in supporting young children with developmental needs. Collaboration helps make sure strategies are practical, consistent, and connected. Teachers bring valuable knowledge about how the child participates in the classroom, what interests them, and where challenges may come up during the day. Developmental interventionists bring additional expertise in child development, intervention strategies, and ways to adapt support for individual needs. When teachers and developmental interventionists communicate regularly, they can learn from one another and build stronger supports for the child. This might include sharing observations, discussing what is working, asking questions, and planning how strategies can fit into routines like play, meals, transitions, or group activities. Consistency across the home and classroom setting helps children have more opportunities to practice important skills. It is also helpful when teachers view the developmental interventionist as a partner rather than someone who works separately from them. Working together creates a more connected, supportive experience for the children, teachers, and families. Effective support for infants and toddlers with developmental needs depends on teamwork. Families, teachers, developmental interventionists, and other specialists each bring important knowledge to the process. Shared goals help the team stay focused on what matters most for the child. Open communication allows team members to problem solve and adjust plans together so that there are consistent strategies occurring at home and at school. Families often share what works at home and which routines matter most to them to both the developmental interventionist as well as the classroom teacher. Early intervention specialists can help adapt ideas so they fit naturally into everyday life. Respect for each person's expertise is essential. A coordinated team approach helps intervention feel more consistent, practical, and most importantly, sustainable. Families of infants and toddlers who are working with early intervention specialists develop what's called an individualized family service plan. This plan is written and developed for infants and toddlers from birth to age 3 who meet the qualifications for early intervention services. The plan is created with the family and the early intervention team and focuses on the child's strengths and needs, the family priorities, and the supports and services that will help the child participate more fully in everyday routines and activities at home, in childcare, or any of the child's natural environments. The IFSP is family-centered and designed to support learning in natural environments. SMART goals are written for the IFSP so they are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. In an IFSP, SMART goals clearly describe what the child will do, in what routine or setting, and how progress will be measured over time. Strong SMART goals are practical, meaningful, and connected to real daily activities so that families and service providers can work together to support progress in ways that fit naturally into the child's life. Jackson is a 7-month-old with cerebral palsy. He enjoys looking at faces, listening to songs, and exploring soft toys that light up or play sounds. He is becoming more interested in the people and objects around him and is starting to show his preferences. Because of his cerebral palsy, Jackson benefits from positioning support so he can comfortably look at and interact with toys and people during play and daily routines. A SMART goal for Jackson might be, over the next 6 months during playtime and everyday routines at home or at childcare, Jackson will show early cognitive skills by looking toward, noticing, and exploring a favorite toy or person for at least 10 seconds in 4 out of 5 opportunities. Ava is a 24-month-old toddler who is receiving early intervention services for global developmental delay. Ava enjoys music, pretend play, books, and playing with familiar toys. She is learning to watch what others do and imitate actions during play. Building imitation skills will support her learning, play, and participation with adults and peers. A SMART goal for Ava might be, within 6 months during play and daily routines at home or at childcare, Ava will imitate at least 2 familiar actions with objects or people, such as stirring a spoon, rolling a car, clapping, or pretending to feed her favorite doll. She will do this in 4 out of 5 opportunities as measured by her caregiver and any provider observation. Liam is a 27-month-old with Down syndrome who enjoys music, books, snack time, and playing with his favorite toys. Liam is curious about the world around him and likes being with familiar adults. He is continuing to build early cognitive skills such as attention, memory, and simple problem solving during his play and everyday activities. A SMART goal for Liam could be, over the next 6 months during play and familiar routines at home or at childcare, Liam will show early cognitive skills by finding a hidden or partially hidden favorite toy or object and continuing the activity in 4 out of 5 opportunities. If you are considering future career options, a developmental interventionist role might be worth thinking about. A developmental interventionist, commonly referred to as a DI, in Kentucky works in KEYS, Kentucky Early Intervention System, with infants and toddlers from birth to age 3 and their families. Services are typically provided in natural environment settings like the home, child care program, or places where the child spends time. The work is centered on helping families support development during their everyday routines. KEYS uses the coaching approach. So this role is not about working directly with the child. It is about partnering with families, listening well, problem solving together, and helping families and teachers feel confident using strategies during the child's daily life in the classroom or at home. DIs need to feel comfortable building relationships with families, collaborating with many other professionals, keeping organized documentation, and understanding processes like the IFSP development, confidentiality, and Part C early intervention services. Kentucky requires credentialing expectations for developmental interventionists. You can consult the Keys website for more information.